You gotta roll with the punches, right? Now this is gonna sound, absolutely nuts. Why do I have two phones? I've already covered this. Keep it simple. Samsung phones are so crap. Anyway, here we are at the sewage works. Right, you have to go back 2 videos, even though I haven't put them up yet. But, before we do that, the simple life. You see, all of these lazy buggers that get up at 9 o'clock. Get up an hour before you're due. But the problem with Britain, I mean, I'm going to live in Europe. Having a jolly good kip. I'm parked here to have a jolly good kip at lunchtime. You fill your stomach full of food. And even in the countryside now, every stupid fucking machine they've got has got a beeper when it goes backwards. The simplest, the most important, the only product that I could do a half an hour riff on this, worth buying, is these. You can still get them on eBay. You can get a big bag of them for about £7. 3M Ear Classic. EAR Classic. So simple. Put them in. Having taken the back panel out, it means I can put the seat back properly and have a nap for half an hour. Now, if we were on the continent, I mean, the British don't see clearly, and in the countryside they don't do sex ever. But in the continent, it would be have a jolly good meal, liaise with your lover in a lay-by, and then have a good nap. And guess what? You wake up and you have your second first thing in the morning buzz. You've got to roll with the punches. Right, we'll come to that in a minute. But, in fact, we'll come to that yet. The most important thing, I mean, Radio 4, as anyone with a brain knows, just went... The word woke is an irrelevant, silly word. It went pathetic and sensitive and all-knowing. I mean, basically, it coincided with Waterstones having the shelf of smart thinking. You know, I really genuinely feel sad for younger people because they've been brainwashed that they can think smart. You can only think once you've, to quote the great song, rolled with the punches and lived a bit. Anyway, a very rare thing. But the real schism. Listening to a Radio 4 programme yesterday afternoon. So today is Thursday. The programme was on at 4 o'clock, the environmental programme. And at last. Now, I'm no bloody hippie. Well, I'm the only hippie I know, the pure one, who knows what values are. Values stay with you for life. I actually flew the private aircraft, now I never normally name anybody, of Simon Fry, who was the head of debt at Nomura International, Nomura being the merchant banking arm. Now, that actually meant he was the top stockbroker in London, because Nomura was the biggest stock merchant bank organisation. I mean, apart from being the number one jerk in history, but he's entitled to be that. He personally oversaw, I mean, he was a Barrow boy, but 27 years ago, 9 years ago, he personally oversaw the privatisation of Welsh Water. Now, I'm not quite in the Welsh Water territory yet. To hear at last, I mean, our lives, the problem with all of you special people, you think your lives are special. Our lives are the most, we've lived through the most boring period in history ever. All our adult lives, which is why the only reason to live is to walk the hills. So he personally oversaw the privatisation of Welsh Water, and he personally put in his back pocket about 30 million quid. And everybody knew he had a 27 million pound or thereabouts custom built yacht that I used to fly him down to see being built in Saint-Tropez or wherever it was. Anyway, irrelevant. Bankers will always be spivs if they're allowed to. But, so what did we have? 20 years of privatisation will improve service. And to hear that programme yesterday, no, actually, we were wrong. Privatisation is not efficient, and they give very good reasoning. I have to admit, very occasionally, that's the reason why I put Radio 4 on, because very occasionally one actually does hear some real people who really should use some swear words as well, although of course I was told yesterday, don't use the word tyranny, and she was dead right. You have to do it more. All we are, if only people would stop thinking they're so special. Now, all I care about in life is in Thursday morning at 9 o'clock I can turn my radio on and listen to In Our Time. And this morning was just so good. It was so good. All we are is, I've forgotten his name, we are the children of Walt Whitman. I mean, that's with a bit of Rimbaud mixed in. That's all we are. The great tragedy of my life, by the way. I have tragedies. 3 or 4 months ago, I asked the only person I care about if she thought her people were Rimbaud-ish. Rimbaud is one of the first to develop the Proustian living Joycean, James Joyce. James Joyce sort of copied Rimbaud, so to speak, sort of took Rimbaud a bit further, but living in your mind and trying to connect with other minds or appreciate what's maybe going on within their mind. But more so we are just Walt Whitmanites. It was absolutely fantastic listening to that this morning. But, yes, so 20 years we've got to privatise, and now, well, we can't unprivatise yet because it's going to cost such a fortune, but privatisation is not efficient. Oh yeah, we have to go back 2 or 3 videos for this, since we're at the sewage works, and since they bloody well, there will be, I've sat here a few times, it's reasonably quiet when I'm travelling, they will be leaking. Won't be mine. That's an act of symbolic fuck you, because the people, you never see anybody working, and you can see the concrete's cracked all around the edges of the bottom of these tanks. That concrete, the ceiling concrete around the bottom, these are the sewage tanks. That hasn't been changed for 20 years. So, in other words, it's actually worse than they spoke of in that programme. And this area here, well, okay, I don't normally name places. This is Leintwardine. This is a very wealthy area. But no. And the most evil thing of all in that programme, the phrase was used, it's worth listening to. The phrase was used that the privatised water companies have an equation, I can't remember exactly the phrase, where they accept a certain amount of fining, of legal impediment. They factor it into their profit sheets, their balance sheets. It's profitable for them to be fined rather than do these things up properly. In fact, I don't normally do this, but can we see it? The concrete around. Nah, you can't see it very well. And guess what? I couldn't be bothered to hop over the fence, which I could do, and photograph it properly. You know, it's just a joke. It's disgusting. It's embarrassing. It is shameful. What do I say to my daughter, 24-year-old daughter, who learned to swim in the River Wye when it was fairly pristine? All the rivers around here have been destroyed. But what was terribly interesting in that programme, the most interesting thing of all, the woman, 35-year-old woman, she thinks that because she's being honest, she's special and tough and happening. So she was honest and said, no, we're not going to improve this for 10 years. It's just not going to happen. The steam tanker that is the government and the local authorities and the inspection processes and the builders and the whole damn thing. She thinks she's special because she was honest. No, she's not special because it's not difficult to think. It is actually quite easy to improve these things such that they're not as leaky and more efficient, and the shit from them, and worse, plastic that people chuck into their toilet water now and all that kind of thing goes into the rivers. So you see, that's the real problem. The young people shouldn't be in charge of anything. If at 30, she will have so many likes on her Facebook. Mind you, Facebook's finished apparently. Good. On her social media. And wow, you were great, Jenny or whatever she was called. You told them. You were the honest one. No, the honesty is that the environmentalists who gather at this weekend at a certain place are just so pathetic and self-regarding, it's ridiculous. Forget them. Ordinary people, they can do it, I don't know, a day a month, and in little groups replace the concrete along the seals, reseal these tanks, etc. No, there'll always be some reason. Safeguarding health and safety, can't do that. No, we are the most absurd nation ever. But at least there's a certain joy in hearing, we had 20 years of PFI privatised, and now, guess what? It was actually known, the science was there in academia about 15 years ago. Proper studies had been done. So how dare these people be so fucking smug, okay? I'm not educated, and I know that actually privatised systems don't work. They're not efficient. They do not provide the product. In a few things they might, arguably, but they do not. The market does not provide the product, which is, everybody in Britain says they want clean rivers. Everybody in Britain is just horrified at the way the pollutants are leaching into the rivers. And yet, anyway, why did I turn the actual camera on? Because, so the most important thing is, if you want the simple life, somehow arrange your life such that the days that and it's always possible. It's always possible. Especially since you're COVID. There's always, I've got to go and have a nap. I'm feeling ill. Arrange your life so that the days you don't get 7.5 to 8 hours sleep, you have half an hour nap. Not one of these absurd. You see, the smart thinking brigade talk of their power naps. It's all absurd. No. You have the nap you need. And you wake up and you've got 2 new mornings. And it's my very, 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 very favoured mode of life. Now, there's just been a phone call 15 minutes ago, which I recorded. It is the funniest phone call in the world ever. It is the world record. And of course, this is the real problem. To get your rights, most people would say, emotional blackmail. But I did well out of it. I really had no. But it's the black swaniness. It's not like, no, I was actually happy before I got legal and on the road. Because I was forced to stay somewhere and make life kind of work. I've no idea what next, and that sounds naff. There are many more interesting things to say, and it's just about keeping it simple. Blah, 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 blah. I have other keeping it. I mean, the most important thing, let's not do that yet. Keep things simple. Keep things simple. Keep things simple. You can't get rich. I don't want to get rich. I need nothing. Except Helen knows what I need. And she's spent 20 minutes on the phone saying, yeah, I understand. But head of PR at a large rural organisation. She won't do anything. That's the real... It is a tyranny, actually. This... Yeah. And occasionally when you have a conversation where you know that the person is... They're able to tune in to the wavelength that... I mean, my understanding of the rural areas is from 20, 30 years of observation. And very occasionally being in cities, so I'm pretty sophisticated. But you occasionally have those conversations where you're more or less on the same wavelength. But then you know, and she knows it's important, the out of balance, the total gentrification. But that's just another word. There aren't enough ordinary people in the countryside. The incoming Duberry boot lot won't take up with somebody like me. I wouldn't want them anyway. But it's all gone so out of kilter, which is what we had our long conversation about. I told her about this recently. But then the next time she's in a team policy meeting, they'll revert to the tech speak, the bureaucratic speak that they won't. They don't want to be. They don't speak like bureaucrats. They actually speak like fucking robots. It's like their pet little phrases, and they're always on the risk averse. No. I mean, I actually said to her, simple truth, that in Ireland they have had wife festivals for decades. So, because there's a huge problem in the countryside, there are no ordinary women left. It's all the Dewberry Boot Brigade or the Hunter Boot Brigade. And they'll never admit it. They pretend to be otherwise. But in their head, I've got to have the right. I've got to reserve the right if I really need the £75,000 new model Land Rover Vogue. It's always there. And I've watched their behaviour over the years. And they cannot let themselves go into forming real, proper alliance with somebody who saw through that crap 50 years ago, and it only makes you stressed and unhappy when it all goes wrong. So that is the real issue. Yeah. There are the very few. I mean, I am actually totally unique in that I know kind of a range of sort of rural workers who are sort of a bit kind of gardening workers towards the bottom. None of them have got partners. All of them are terribly unhappy, full of angst, and their lives are unsustainable. Yet you say, well, you should arrange wife festivals in the countryside for some ordinary people, not Dewberry boots. Dewberry boots, they're the stripy ones. And what the countryside really is about, let me tell you what the countryside really is about, and this is the real schism. I give up. I've been watching this for years. Is the poor women from the small towns who've hardly got any education. The education is so appalling, it's ridiculous. So anodyne, so kind of... Anyway. You can see them. Literally, I can hear their mind work. That one that's come in, she's got the £250 real pucker Dewberry boots. I can only afford the 50 quid imitation pair from TK Maxx or whatever. Yeah, that's literally what it became. Not everywhere. That's a generalisation. And the Pixies, the wellness brigade, say you're not allowed to make them. No. 90% of mentalities in the region. I've seen it so many times. You meet the occasional person, woman, who will actually have the honest discussion about these things, about how the bourgeois, gentrified, bijou money has come in, and what it does is it intimidates everybody. Now, I don't want to sound like a ranter. It's about finding solutions. But the first solution is to speak about it honestly. The second solution is, unfortunately, all comedy is about sexuality, which only actually affects 3.5% of the population. Radio 4. It's about sexuality and other such easy topics. It's much harder to talk about it's not even class, it's just pure bourgeois, straight, it's all in Madame Bovary, bourgeois angst that totally dominate the countryside, that nobody will talk about. And the solution is to everything is often, in large part, satire and comedy. But no, we have such an urban... You see, this is why in reality we are urbanised, because all our culture is generated, or all our culture is generated by nervy townies with their obsessions, their total and utter disproportionate obsessions. And my best friends in my 20s, 2 or 3 of them were homo guys. I got 2 or 3 quite good friends who were lesbians, okay? But it all comes from the cities. And so this reality of still the majority of the land is never covered. That we need satire, we need to make people think. You know, take it from me. If I drop dead now, out of boredom, it's about the Dewberry Boots.